Hello, gorgeous people. Welcome to another episode of The Calvin Show. I'm Calvin, and let's get going. Last night, I was reading this article about George Michael in the Billboard magazine, and I was reading in the bathtub, so it's all a mess now. But a couple things really stood out to me about George Michael, about the coverage about George Michael. Even when fans were swooning over him, he remembered being an overweight kid who wore glasses. He never thought he was good looking, Rob Kahane tells Billboard. Kahane managed the singer at the height of his solo stardom. When he looked in the mirror, he'd still see a pudgy, homely kid. This really stuck out to me because I can so relate to it. I've had that feeling of like, oh, I'm just like fat and ugly. I'm just fat and ugly. And like, no matter how many people tell me I look amazing or I'm attractive or how much success or joy and happiness and relationships I have, there's still that little boy inside that's just going like, I'm just fat and ugly. I'm just fat and ugly. But I can so relate to like, oh my God, this guy who was like the huge sex symbol for so many people, and he was just still, inside him when he looked in the mirror, who just saw that boy that was like, I'm just fat and ugly. I'm just fat and ugly. For me, it was like, no one's immune, or like that, like just compassion for how we're all going through these experiences of like feeling wrong inside, no matter what things look like on the outside. If there's a part of you that feels that way, just know that you're not alone. Everybody has some aspect of this. The other thing that really stood out for me, this one, it took me about 2 months to suss out that the music business was full of assholes, and I knew better than they did. That's when I dug my heels in. Yeah, you know what? I think that's true. That the music business is full of assholes. And maybe it's true for like any business. I think it might be more true for the music industry than for so many others. But also things like film and fashion and whatnot. Hendricks talking about how he's written these novels about Tenzin, this like kind of private investigator kind of guy who has like Buddhist and spiritual insights to share and things like that. They're novels, and they're being made into film. And he talked about how, he was talking to people about how to navigate Hollywood, and someone was telling him, well, in Hollywood, you either get stabbed in the back or you stab someone else in the back. And Hendricks' response was like, I don't feel like I need to live that way. That may be how you look at the world, but I choose to go into Hollywood thinking about it differently. So even though like there may be a lot of people in Hollywood or in the music business that are like that, you don't have to make that your life. You can attract the people that are actually cool and awesome to work with. That leads me to another topic, which is this openness to discovery scale that Hendricks and his wife, Katie Hendricks, have developed. They're pioneers in kind of body-centered, personal growth development, spirituality. He's a Stanford PhD. She's a dance therapist. Both Nomi and I have worked extensively with them for several years. And one of the things that Gay shared with me several years ago is this openness to discovery scale, which is very cool. When we're faced with something, just some kind of life experience, how we approach it is way more important than pretty much anything else. IQ, cultural background, how we respond to those things is critically important. They came up with this kind of scale from like plus 10 to minus 10, and generally you want to be above the line. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing with you, and I can't share it because it's not mine to share, but I'm just going to give you an idea. So like plus 10 here is implementing, planning actions, figuring out how to apply this. Number 8, taking full responsibility for the issue and the results that you created. Plus 5 is listening generously. Plus 1 is demonstrating an open posture. Below the line is the more kind of defensive maneuvers, like -1 where you're showing polite interest outwardly while inwardly clinging to your point of view or rehearsing a rebuttal. -2, explaining how the person has misperceived the situation. -4, justifying why you're the way you are or you acted the way you did. All the way down to -9, attacking or threatening the messenger, verbally or otherwise, or -10 creating uproar or making an abrupt departure. And I can definitely see myself doing basically all of these at different points in time. But the more that you can consciously choose to be above the line and be like, I take responsibility and I'm open to learning from this experience to see how I may go ahead and create different experiences in my life going forward, the more, success you're going to have, the more your life is going to be flowing, the more happy you're going to be. And the more that you catch yourself being defensive, like immediately when someone says something, instead of being like curious and open, being like, wow, that's so interesting. I may not necessarily agree with it, but can we just start by being curious about like what makes you say that, versus being like, no, I did that because no, that wasn't what you think it was, or like any kind of defensive move. In your life, you want to be extremely careful about people who exhibit defensive behavior. Like if you're opening up and being vulnerable and you're being met with someone being defensive, that's a red flag. If that happens consistently, that's probably not a relationship that you want to invest in, because there's not going to be a room to grow here, to explore together and to create together. Defensiveness is an ego strategy, right? It's the ego that has this belief that it needs to be right. If your ego is wrong, it means it's a bad ego or something. It's not doing its job. And so it's really not helpful for you or for others. So be aware of that. And we're all going to fall short on this, and if you will, and like end up feeling defensive. And if we're feeling attacked, it's very easy to start to be defensive. And so what you want to do in that moment is just take a split second to tune in with the part of you that's feeling attacked and feeling hurt. So you calm that part of you down, and now you can start to listen and have empathy for what the feedback is that you're receiving, whether it's someone saying something or just results you're getting. Now you can actually learn something. There's a chance of learning something, and there's a chance of growing the relationship. So that is the openness to discovery scale. With that, let's move on to a question. Cherie asks, did you have mentors along the way? And if so, what was one big thing you gleaned from them? Yes, I've had tons and tons of mentors. Mentors that I've met in person, mentors that I've worked with or hired or just talked to, mentors that I wish I had met, like Steve Jobs or Richard Branson, people like that. Gay Hendricks that we just talked about, and his wife Katie. Each person, each relationship has something unique and valuable to teach me, which I guess brings us back to the openness to discovery. I think the key is to be just tune in with yourself from an honest, kind of open place, and feel, what is it that this person or this relationship really has to offer you? And it could be a lot of things, and it could be, just the one thing, but really know your own worth and know that you're unique. There may be a lot of things that you figured out about life or about your life that they are not seeing, or that is not relevant for them. Like, don't buy into anyone wholesale. You are unique. You are a genius. So you can use these people outside of you as mirrors in to be like, oh, that aspect. I've always been fascinated with Steve Jobs' like power and his clarity and his vision. And these are elements that I have that are part of me, but I don't need to put him up on a pedestal and be like, oh, he's a better person than me. I'm just like little me. It's so easy to override ourselves and give ourselves away. I think that's where a lot of the fandom, thing happens with like people who are like, oh my God, Lady Gaga, you're just so amazing, and how can you be? It's not good for anybody. It's not nice for Lady Gaga, and it's not nice for the person doing all that gushing. Maintain your own integrity. And when someone says something and suggests something and like even gives you feedback, like we talked about before, don't be too quick to agree with it. Be open to learning and discovering what it is they're trying to say and where they're coming from it, but don't necessarily agree with it. You are the ultimate source, and these mentors can just reflect something back to you. I think a lot of people in this like information marketing business that I'm also in with Simplero, and I can definitely relate to that. When I was starting out with this stuff, I would give away myself and just be like, oh, I'm nothing, I'm not successful, this person is, so they must have figured all these things out more than I have. It's just not always the case. They have figured some things out and you can learn from it, but you don't, again, want to just copy it verbatim. You want to take in and learn more from like the energy of it. How is this person organizing themselves to have these results? I think is a much more interesting question than like what specific strategies can I copy from this person. It's not hard to come up with a strategy. It's all about how you implement it, how you integrate it with your energy and your essence, and then how you execute from that place. That's what it really comes down to. You know, with me, take whatever you can from me, from the energy you see, from what I'm talking about, from just like what resonates with you, and feel free to run with that, and feel free to be like, the rest of it is not like really my cup of tea. That's perfectly fine. My feelings are not gonna be hurt. That's what I want you to do. One thing I really like, and I'm gonna talk about that in an upcoming episode, is these personality tests, especially those that don't require you to answer accurately about yourself. I'm doing fingerprint readings, human design, things like that. I find extremely helpful because it helps you understand how you are, and that might help you see how you're different from how other people are. And so when you're learning from some person who's a different nature from yourself, that means that, you know, what works for this person is not gonna work for you. You really need to know yourself. Like, for example, me, I have like a very, in the human design, I have a very open definition, which means I'm very good at like being in this open, spacious place, like a chameleon in some ways, just settle in and tune into the energy in a room and just like be with that and respond with that. And that gives me the ability to see certain things and to sense things that are useful and that may help me reflect some things back to you. But if that's not your design, then you're not going to be able to kind of copy that part of it, but you still might find value. Like, I can pull some pieces down that are going to be valuable to you, but you're not going to be able to clone my exact strategies because I'm just a different person from you, who you are. That is my answer to your question. Thank you so much for tuning in to yet another episode of The Calvin Show. Remember, go to my website, calvincorelli.com, if you're not already there. Comment over there. Give me your questions, your thoughts, your feedback. Video questions are amazing. We love you for them. Sign up for the mailing list in the top right corner so you'll get notified as soon as there's a new episode. And remember, being you is the truest form of anarchy. Go be you.